What happens when four people with their own deeply personal experiences of suicide come together? One of the most extraordinary conversations you'll ever see. I'm Laura, and along with three others, we each shared a letter we'd written to a loved one or ourselves for our new campaign, What If a Conversation About Suicide Could Save a Life? Then we talked about what we've learned on our journey and what we want others to know. Because talking about suicide is the best way to prevent it from happening. This is The Conversation from Suicide Prevention Scotland. Dear Laura, the pain and hopelessness you feel right now is unbearable, and it's like nothing will ever change. It will and it can if you stay alive. This is what I wish I could have told myself before I tried to end my life. You have nothing to feel ashamed of, and you're not a burden or a failure. That shame you feel about how you're feeling is nothing compared to the shame you felt waking up in the hospital bed. Your devastated boyfriend looking at you with so much worry. You were so worried about talking about it that you buried it all with a smile until you were so trapped there felt like no way out. Nobody deserves to feel the way you did. You deserve to feel hope, peace, and happiness. Talking about how you're feeling is really hard, and you'll feel vulnerable, but it's the bravest thing you'll ever do. You'll slowly start to feel glad that you're still alive. You won't believe it now, but you'll even start to want to stay alive, and not just for your loved ones. You'll get engaged, buy a house, and laugh endlessly at the silly things your cat and dog do. People that love you listen to you without judgment and don't try to fix you. You'll still struggle sometimes, but you'll learn coping strategies that help. If you can just hang on for one more day, that day will turn into two. Before you know it, you'll have managed to stay alive for longer than you ever imagined. You might even be able to tell your story and help others. Try believing that there is a chance you can feel hope again, because I promise you, you will. How do I know? Because this is my story. Love, Laura.
That's so lovely. It's full of hope and inspiration in terms of how bad you were feeling to where you are now.
It's a bit cheesy writing to myself, but I think, because I do still struggle. I mean, not so much in, that I want to end my life, but I'm always consciously aware that it's within view, and I have to be incredibly careful. I suffer from PMDD and different things, and hormonal fluctuations really affect me and can totally pull me out of whack, and I can be in vulnerable position. And so it's the little coping strategies that's starting to, for example, keeping a diary. It's been life-changing for me because I can see that there is hope. Because sometimes, it's like the shutters just can come down on me. And I what I'm sitting here doing today, and I might feel like this didn't even happen, but if I can look and see it in my own handwriting that I did do this, and I did feel confident, and I was able. Some days I struggle to even get out of bed and shower, and I feel a bit ashamed saying that because it feels like I should be. That was then, and this is now. But this is what I've realised after, unfortunately, that was my third suicide attempt. But I realised that, no, this is a lifelong condition, mental health disorders that I live with. But they don't define me, but they can define my actions sometimes. And that's what I have to be a little bit patient with myself about, and and not overwhelm myself. Sometimes I really struggle with social anxiety, which seems incredible sitting here doing this today, but it's just some days I can do things, some days I can't. And it's almost like having enough tools in your tool belt that to be able to cope on the days when things are a bit more of a struggle. Sometimes it's simple things like if I'm feeling really, really anxious, not going into a supermarket because I get overwhelmed by the lights and by the people and by the choice. I have ADHD as well, so there's just like a plethora of things that make me who I am,
But that's a good thing though, do you know what I mean? And you've learned a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
And you're learning to live with yourself and what works for you and what doesn't work for you, which is
Yeah,
amazing.
definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think like one of the biggest things I wanted to get across in this is that I think sometimes trying to find help is so difficult.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you might even get help and it might not be the right type for you, you know, but what works for you, what works for somebody might not work for you. And for me, counselling's been so beneficial. And like I've realised that is now a really important thing that I have as part of self-care, you know, and just kind of investing in myself a little bit.
You talked about like the toolkit there as well, because like from one perspective, going to counselling, I did a sort of a kind of weekly sort of programme of trying to learn techniques around kind of managing my anxiety as well. I'm now a bit more open with my friends about kind of speaking out when I've maybe had a bad day or my mood's been low or those sort of things. So there's all these sort of things that sort of build up, that sort of kind of give me hope that, you know, that can help me in future, whereas before I wouldn't have maybe called upon those sort of tools from the toolkit.
Yeah. I think I have like massive avoidance things, so I don't like people to see me when I'm feeling down, and I think it's part of that is that vulnerability thing, and my fiance sees it all the time, you know, but I think there is a little bit, I'm more honest with people and say, look, instead of making up a big excuse about why I've not been in touch for weeks and weeks, I just say, I've been really struggling and I just needed to hibernate and recoup my strength. I also meditate, and that's been massive for me. It's been life-changing, but in the same sense, that's been a struggle as well, because if you've got an anxious mind, you know, we speak about mindfulness and different things. If you've got an anxious mind, like, it's really difficult to learn mindfulness or meditation when you're in an anxious period. So it's one of those little habits that has helped me. The more I've practiced it, so that when I do get really anxious, I can try and drop back in. But it's not always an instant fix, you know. It's and some people are so, you know, some people will have feelings of wanting to end their life that will luckily only happen once in their life or whatever. I've wanted to end my life since I was a child. I've never felt like I belong here. And so it's something that is like, you know, it's just that, it's there. And it's almost trying to learn to cope with that voice that don't let it get out of control.
But that must be a real struggle or an exhausting struggle. It's one of the things I think is apparent in all the letters, is how brave you have to be just to struggle through and keep going. And you mentioned, Laura, just even getting to the next day, holding on for one more day. So that hope doesn't need to be about where you're going to be in 5 years' time. It's just giving someone enough hope to hold on for that next day. And I recognise that with Dylan as well, that actually his bravery was in getting through each day. And although he wasn't brave enough to ask for help because that was too difficult, it takes bravery from both sides.
Well, that's so true. I think, I mean, I'm so lucky that I have my partner, and I think that was one of the bravest things he ever did was be like, I need you to just talk to me when you're feeling like this. And we've been together for over 20 years, and you know, and even that it's only been in the past few years that I'm like, okay, well, I will speak to you, but
and does that still take courage for you to do that? Is it easier?
It's much easier now, but it's much easier, and I'm much more open now in saying I feel like I don't want to be here, or I feel like it's just all too much. That was what really hindered my recovery in the past and led to the recurrent attempts was that I always thought, right, I should be totally fine now. I should be this, I should be that, or this. And it was like it's so cheesy, but it was changing from that, where am I going to be in 5 years? Where am I going to be in 10 years? To going, okay, well, I actually started to try and do one nice thing for myself each day. And whereas in the past I would have decided, right, well, that must mean running a marathon or, doing something massive. And that one thing started with, I'm going to make a wee cup of tea. I'm going to sit outside and have that cup of tea. And that was like one thing. And then even saying it now, I know it sounds a bit silly, but it's then that little thing that goes like, I'm going to put that nice moisturiser on my hands. And it's almost like reassociating with yourself. Just a little, it's like it layers. It's little layers that
little
can
steps,
help you.
isn't it? And,
Yeah.
and it's hard when someone's not feeling hopeful that life is going to change or get better. And I think the last thing you want to do is put, we're talking about judgment, but you don't want to put pressure on anyone either.
Yeah.
So that's why the listening is so important, but by helping them to have hope that actually by talking and by trying to get the help that they need, that even though that closed door and trying to open it is a bit scary, that actually it might help, it might not help, but it might help, so it's worth trying. So it's trying to instill that hope in someone when they feel that all hope is lost. So it's those little steps.
I think as well, like some days I do still feel hopeless, and I think there must be other people like me that struggle with that. And however, like today I do feel hopeful, and so the thought that on one of those days that could just be it, lights over, I don't then have a chance of hope again. And so today makes up for the days that are hopeless. But I think I used to put really massive expectations on myself. And I think learning to sort of change that, or learning to kind of just understand myself a little bit better, has been life-changing.
And again, it's that self-compassion, isn't it? If you had a broken leg or you had cancer or something, you would feel compassionate towards yourself, but for some reason with suicide and feeling so low and anxiety, there's this worry that everyone's got to be big and brave and put this face on, when actually underneath the surface, the more you talk to people, the more you realise actually there's a lot of people struggling. Some days, not every day, but some days, and then they're okay. And I think the more people talk about it, it is a brave thing to talk and share how you're feeling and be, like you say, be vulnerable. Yeah. But it's also brave to be there as well for someone, and that.
Oh, definitely.
I think that's,
I think that
to say to someone, do you feel suicidal?
Yeah.
It is scary because you don't know if they say yes or no. Either way is quite scary. But it's worth it.
It just gives someone the chance.
Yeah, gives them the permission. Yeah.